Hey everybody, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. This morning I'm going to be reacting to Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40K, Episode 41, Mortal Precipices Part 2, made on the A Fan With Too Much Time YouTube channel. If you guys want to check out my reaction to the previous episodes, remember that the playlist card is going to be at the top right here. Just click on it and you'll be able to access them. If you want to check out the original video as well as A Fan With Too Much Time's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. Yes, I reacted to episode 41, Mortal Precipices Part 1, as well as the aftertalk. And, well, in Part 1, Farnes is tied up to a medical bed, and he is being questioned by Ahsoka. He is not cooperating. He is fighting. He does not trust anything that Ahsoka is saying because he believes that she is a Xeno. And of course, you know where he comes from in terms of the Warhammer 40K galaxy. All Xeno races are against humanity. They use humanity. They destroy humanity's spirit. And, you know, Farnes is clumping up the Xeno races in his home galaxy with the Xeno races in the Star Wars galaxy. And, you know, that's wrong. That's misdirected anger at the wrong people. And Ahsoka is trying to explain to him that we are not all the same and we are not the ones responsible for what has happened to you and your people in your galaxy. But Farnes is not listening to any of that. He is passionately against any form of cooperation with any Xeno race, as expected from an Imperium of Man soldier. And yeah, it's going to be a hard task for Ahsoka to break through the walls that Farnes has erected around himself, you know. So good luck to her. Good luck to her in trying to convince Farnes that, you know, she is not a threat and the Galactic Republic is not a threat. It's going to be a long, hard conversation and patience and demonstration that she can be trusted, that Xeno races in this galaxy are not the same like those in his galaxy. Yeah, so it's going to take time. Quinlan Vos has been tortured by Inquisitor Tarweiler, and yeah, it's been bad for him. You know, it's like I said, it's night and day. What I said before in episode 41, part 1, it's like night and day with Farnes. You know, he's just being questioned. Nothing's really happening to him, you know, physically. And with Quinlan Vos, it's the opposite. He is being tortured. His eyelids have been ripped from his, you know, face. And, yeah, he's bleeding. He's been crushed mentally, physically by Tarweiler. And he was about to break. He was about to break. However, Aayla Secura came in and, you know, freed him from his bondages. Or he was chained up. Yeah, he was chained up. Aayla Secura cut the chains and freed him and gave him a back to tank. And 8 other Jedi are also there with Aayla Secura, and they're going to be helping out the other Jedi that have been captured by Tarweiler. Where is Tarweiler going? I'm not entirely sure, and I'm actually surprised that he did not sense Aayla Secura coming in to the facility. So yeah, Tarweiler is busy with other things, and probably when he gets back, he'll be surprised to see his favorite torture toy is no longer there. He says that he doesn't feel, you know, any sort of enjoyment torturing a human being, but I find it hard to believe. You know, this is his job. This is what he does, and you know, I don't think he hates his job. I really don't think he hates his job. He enjoys his job. So the fact that he's torturing a human being, I don't think it relates to him, you know, not enjoying his job. No, he enjoys what he's doing. I think he enjoys it. But yeah, let's continue with part 2 of Mortal Precipices. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh yes, I'm also going to add the links, to help out Fantasy Too Much Time's craft. If you guys are interested, then you can go directly into the description below and you'll find the links there as well. Yeah.
Sister Miria watched on, a rare hollowness filling her heart.
Sister Miria? I don't think I know you. Okay.
As she bore witness. The other members of the hospital moved in a frenzy around the medical bed, attempting to do whatever they could with what meager power they had left. But Miria was 150 years old, and she had seen this before. But never on one she looked upon with such veneration and respect. Ishtara Ordain lay in the center of all the activity.
Ishtara Ordain, yes. Oh, I wrote down her name here already. Let me just... From the after talk. Okay.
Eyes closed, her chest rising and falling in small, shuddering contractions. Contractions which grew shallower and shallower with each breath. Her wrinkled face was ashen, her arms and legs bandaged, her chest armored in a thick cast. But Miria knew it would not be enough. Not nearly enough. Their venerable leader, their highest canoness, was dying. Her bones were broken, discoloring wounds spotting her paper-thin skin all over where it was visible, with only her face remaining unmarked by any strike, save for that dealt by time.
I mean, imagine this lady is so old, but she was on the battlefield against the Jedi. She survived a crash landing of a separatist vessel, and then she was ambushed by Genestealer cult members. And she survived luckily because of her, I think it's her daughter. What's her daughter's name? I forgot. Is it Reina? Reina Ordain? I think it's Reina. Yeah. But yeah, she was fighting day in, day, okay, not day in, day out, but every moment of every minute or second or hour she's been fighting. And yeah, I guess maybe these are her last moments alive.
Even if Miria could salve her mistress's internal bleeding, even if she could mend her broken bones directly and with a snap of her fingers, she knew it would not save her. Not now. Ishtara was ancient by the standards of baseline humanity, and long past the time she should have taken to the field of battle. In her final fight, she had given everything, and now her withered flesh simply had nothing left to give. Every breath she took, every shuddering struggle to live she exerted, was now fueled solely by her stubborn will, and no will was endless. No will, save that of the Emperor. The thought had the senior hospitaler turning her head away, her eyes meeting the closed, golden eyelids of the master of mankind. The mask of the Emperor lay near its bearer's bed, placed upon a cushion on a table only 3 feet away. Serene and at peace, it struck her just how similar their two expressions were to each other now. Both faces, both mask-bearer and mask, now seeming to become one, just before the moment of her death. The sister turned her face in the other direction, and there, not far away, saw the bloodied and barely living body of the Canoness's heir, her own daughter, Sister Legatine Reyna Ordain. She lay nearly...
Reyna Ordain, yes. So I was right. Wait, but there is one sister that I really liked who died. Rajulia, yes, that's who I was thinking. But then I thought to myself, no, that's wrong. Rajulia died when she was fighting against Shock T. So it can't be Rajulia. Yeah, alright, so it's Reyna, definitely. Ordain.
Upon her own deathbed, taking her own shallow breaths, still covered in blood, both hers and that of the 300 clones she had murdered by her own hand. Slain by the...
Oh yeah, I remember the massacre, the just unrelenting death she brought upon the clone troops. Yeah, this lady is crazy.
Fury of her weapons of fire and steel. She, at least, would live, for Reyna had much fight in her left. Her sister was, even then, out upon the battlefield, stalling the Republic's advance, keeping hope alive as heroes and saints fell and died all around them. But more and more it seemed like that hope was guttering, dying like a flame in a vicious gale. The walls were falling. Already fighting had broken into the courtyard.
Admiral Rolla has to get her landing craft down here as soon as possible. I mean, if she cannot win the war in space, then, buy some time for these forces to evacuate from the Basilica. I hope she's able to do it very fast, because it's getting bad. It's really, really getting bad. I'm actually surprised that the clone troops, the rebels of Axum, as well as the Genestealer cult, have pushed so far into the Basilica this way. When I first saw those defenses that Kubik depicted of the Basilica, I thought those defenses and the wall were going to stand there for a very long time. I did not think that the Star Wars side of this conflict had the firepower to bring down those walls so fast. But they did. They did. They brought them down. So yeah, Admiral Rolla has to get here as soon as possible to get these guys out of here. And we still have the situation with Tar Weiler and his exterminatus plans for Axum. Yikes.
Already they could hear it approaching the triage tents. She longed to move them into the Basilica's infirmary, but it was already packed to capacity long before the Legatine herself had been returned to them on black treads. They would have to do their best here, and it seemed even their best would not be enough. She saw some sisters preparing an invasive procedure moments from sawing into the cast over the Canoness's chest. A fresh, beating heart held within a head-sized vat container.
I don't think a heart is going to save the Canoness Superior. I just don't think so. It's not going to rejuvenate her body. It's not going to rejuvenate her blood, really. It's not going to do anything. She is an old lady. And this battle that she's been in, ever since fighting against the Jedi and surviving the crash landing of the Separatist vessel, it took a toll on her. A serious toll on her body. And then you have to add in the Genestealer cult, who also ambushed her and almost brought her to death, almost. If it weren't for Reyna and for Saint Lazarus coming in at that last minute, she would have died. So I don't know if a heart is really going to be the best answer to any of this.
Which was brought forward by a medical servitor. Miria shook her head and reached out, tightly taking the shoulder of the sister carrying the saw forward and shaking her head. "Sister Superior," the woman said as she was stopped, but Miria walked past her, taking the golden Aquila pendant that hung around her own neck and reverently removing it as she came closer. Without words, she came to Ishtara's bedside, the other sisters slowly noticing her approach, a dread following her every step as more and more eyes turned to watch Miria. "No, Miria, you cannot," said Sister Yennefer, standing in the way between the approaching senior sister and the faltering form of their canoness. "Stand aside, sister," Miria said, her words heavy with the sorrow of her own duty. "It is not yet time. We can still—" The younger sister began to say, "We can still waste more time and more resources, but we cannot save her, and doing anything else in vain would be the height of neglect for our duty. Attempting that kind of heart replacement surgery would only kill her faster. So, stand aside, sister," said Miria, eyes soft but voice firm. "I cannot!" Sister Yennefer cried, tears spilling from her eyes. "I swore to protect her life." She went on, "We all swore it, but her life is not ours to keep. The Emperor is calling our canoness home. She is a bride of the throne. We cannot keep her from his side. Memento mori, sister. This was inevitable," Miria explained, and in response, the younger Hospitaller fell to her knees, losing her strength as she began to weep. Other sisters helped her out of the way, and the senior among them continued to the bedside of her beloved leader. "Yea, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we will fear no evil, for the Emperor is with us," she intoned as she lowered the symbol, gently cupping Ishtara's head and lifting it from her pillow. "The Emperor is with us," repeated the others around her as she laced the thin golden chain over the dying woman's head, gently placing her back down and laying the golden aquila across her bandaged chest. "Her armor is sundered," said Miria bitterly. "Where is her sword?" To those words, the sisters who knew looked away, shame written upon their faces.
I don't know what happened to the Taba Ahiv. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think she lost it during the crash landing, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
"We were unable to recover it. The Tabahaiv remains on the field, taken from her hand by the gene stealers. They will be unable to touch it, but we are unable to recover it," said Sister Uriel, eyes downcast. "No matter," said Sister Miria tightly. "Find her flamer then. Bring it here. I shall not see her pass into the Emperor's embrace unarmed."
The flamer is a good choice, Sister Miria. Yes, good choice,
she ordered. Two of the sisters nodded and departed to seek her unused armaments, soon returning with the canoness's hand flamer, handing it to Sister Miria, who, in turn, took the bandaged and cast-heavy hands of the canoness and placed them over the weapon, resting both on her stomach below her chest. Ishtara still breathed, her breaths quickening for a moment, feeling the familiar sensation of her instrument of death, her lips seeming to almost quirk in response, though it could have been Miria's imagination. Miria kneeled, followed by the others around her, and in that moment the sisters began to sing, voicing a wonderful and horrible dirge, their voices seeking to wail, constrained only by their faith and discipline. It was a short ode, for they had duties to attend, but they sang it with all their hearts and all their souls. When that moment had finished, it was filled with brief silence before Miria stood once more. "All right, everyone rise. We cannot let sorrow forestall duty," she said, and at the command, the other sisters scattered, redoubling their efforts to save those they could, while none remained to tend to their dying leader. But Miria had barely performed 2 blood transfusions before something else filled her attention. A desperate scream, And then, not one but many, voiced by the throats of sisters and soldiers alike, a shadow fell over the tents, over the entire compound.
A shadow?
And the wailing of terror and panic only grew more intense. The healing sisters around them paused, fear filling their eyes, pouring like poison onto those recently opened wounds they felt in their hearts.
Fear? They would never fear the clone troops. Or rebels. Maybe it's the Gene Stealer. Maybe it's... What's that Gene Stealer's name again? I forgot. Jevona's brother. Balthrazar? Must be him.
Miria could not allow it. Faith, sisters. We must keep the faith. Sister Emera, Sister Gloria, with me, she said, indicating to two of the battle sisters who had been left to guard the mending of the Hospitlars. They marched beside her, ceramite boots loud upon the ground as they strode to either side of the senior healer, all of them making their way to the frontmost tent flap and casting it open, stepping into the world of panic and death that awaited them beyond. The gates were breached. Rebels and heretical Xenos monsters were pouring into the courtyard, held at bay by a patchy defense composed of those guardsmen who had been waiting to hold the line.
Where is Saint Lazarus?
But the numbers of the rebels were bolstered by the white shells of the replique slaves of the Republic, and the protection provided by the Astera Militarum was a near thing indeed. Soldiers fired from both the defensive lines and from the tops of the walls, down into their own perimeters, fighting and dying to maintain the borders between the Basilica and triage tents just outside it and the now compromised walls. But these were not the factors that were sowing panic among the men and women of the Imperium. These were not the enemies casting them in damned, cold shadow. Miria and her bodyguards looked up, eyes widening like saucers as they beheld what hung above them.
Oh, it's a ship. Oh, okay.
Merciful Emperor, breathed one of the battle sisters, the sky having been devoured by the hulls of 3 enormous arrowhead-shaped ships.
3. Does the Basilica have any anti-ship weaponry platforms? Anything?
The Republic Navy had arrived. They had not been stopped or staunched, and now the steel bodies of their heretical machines filled the air like portents of Armageddon itself. Their docking bays opened, yawning wide to expel swarms of attack craft and troop carriers, which buzzed and warbled in the air, akin to a plague of locusts, and falling upon them just as ravenously. They strafed the lines of Imperial defenders, rays of green death and bolts of blue, merciless fire falling from them and destroying the faithful in droves.
And the Imperium of Man don't have any Titans left or Imperial Knights. You know, I think Nerva's Imperial Knight was one of the last. Oh, gosh.
Go! Sister Miria ordered the two beside her. Find Saint Lazarus. Ensure that he... She began to yell, but her voice was buffeted and blown away from the ears of the others as the massive cannons on the Republic vessels above them came to hideous life. The Republic's shipboard weapons fired into the tops of the wall, an inescapable burning cascade which tore the battlements apart, killing everyone and everything that had been atop them and burning them down to half their previous towering lengths.
My gosh.
Miria's wide eyes absorbed it all, watching their defense collapsing in real time. And then, as she gawked, the enemy arrived before them. The two battle sisters at her side snapped their bolters up, large weapons barking and firing at an enemy Miria had not spotted until it was too late. When she did snap her eyes down before herself to see what approached, all she could understand were the two glowing bars of light which came for her, driving to either side of her and lopping off the inner-facing arms of both of her erstwhile guardians.
Damn, Jedi? What? Well, whose Jedi is this now? With 2 lightsabers, and you know, cutting off the Sister of Battle's arms. Like, man, that's excessive. Normally, Jedi don't do that.
In her face was the grinning, vicious visage of a gene stealer Primus.
Okay, yeah, no, that's perfectly understandable, because even as a Jedi, I was going to be like, wow, you're kind of bloodthirsty, really. If a Jedi did that, I would be concerned. But it was the gene stealer. Okay, all right. With lightsabers, it must be Balthazar. Yeah, that guy.
She tried to scream, the other 2 sisters beside her doing the same as they fell away to either side, clutching at the stumps of their newly severed arms, unable to hold their bolters without them. But before Miria's voice could find purchase in her throat, the beast backhanded her with an alien claw, drawing deep furrows across her abdomen and chest, as well as throwing the Sister Hospitaller back into the triage tents. She hit the ground hard, a fellow healer kneeling to her side instantly, spraying something down over her bleeding chest. A bluish-black foam which staunched the bleeding and began to address the gene stealer's corrosive poison before it could kill too much of her.
Wait, the gene stealer Balthazar has poison? Wow, alright. So you're not just fighting him physically, you know, something to worry about, but his body also produces some sort of poison.
Miria was dizzy, her eyes unfocused as pain and death began to fill her body. She did not see the alien follow her inside, but after a moment, it was clear that it had, ripping and tearing its way through the terrified medics and wounded soldiers of the Imperium, whipping its stolen weapons through them without resistance. As the few who could attempt it fought back in desperation. It was not long before it was standing over her once more, the sister tending to her, never leaving her side, even as she feebly tried to pull the fellow healer back.
Do you have a grenade, sister? Or a bolter gun? Do you have any sort of explosive? Yeah. Make sure he is close enough to you before you detonate it. I don't expect you to survive, Sister Miria. But if you can take out this gene stealer cult member, you would have done a great service. Yes.
Everything beyond the beast was a dead, gore-ridden slick of those who should have been saved and those who should have been saving. Behind them, the remaining sisters of the Hospitaller Order began to move patients, running to fill the hallways and spare rooms of the Basilica, evacuating anyone they could move. The thing smiled a leering, hateful smile, watching them run before him. Miria scratched at her waist, pulling free a bolt pistol and aiming it up with a trembling hand at the monster. She fired, and it jerked its head to the side, trivially avoiding the shot. The sister beside her tried to do the same, but the transhuman terror that had filled her at the sight of its butchery made her aim even less reliable than Miria's.
We need someone who is willing to make a suicide run on this monster, on this Xeno threat. We need someone who can run up with a grenade and blow themselves up with it. We need someone who can do that. Because clearly getting close to him and fighting against this creature with its, lightsabers, it's not going to work out. And shooting from a distance also seems not to be able to work out. So we need a suicide runner. Maybe one of the servitors can be programmed. But I don't think servitors can run, but oh gosh. Yeah, we need someone.
And the creature contemptuously kicked the weapon from her hand.
Do not fight,
it said to them in clear Gothic, spoken through a monster's voice.
Instead, pray. Pray to your dead god, for you will be joining him soon.
It mocked, raising its sabers high over its head and swiping them down. And yet, Those two blades were suddenly caught. The searing weapons of the Jedi brutally halted against the proud, blue-shaded steel of a sparking power sword. Miria looked up from her daze and saw, standing over them, face fixed in a grimace just as hateful as any grin the creature could make, was Reyna Ordain.
Oh!
Face and body still streaked in blood, her power armor half disassembled around her, all but useless. She forced the thing back with a pained roar, blood spilling from torn stitches as a myriad of blaster burns stung and seared her flexing muscles.
Oh gosh, Reyna. Stay alive. Fight. Win.
Hear me, O God Emperor of mankind! She shouted as she stepped over the two Hospitaller, still contending with the now aware counter-strikes of the alien she faced. Deliver me from my enemies! Protect us from those who rise up against you! Reyna roared, sweeping, hacking, blade clashing against the lightsabers held by the enemy. Tables and beds were overturned, bodies and broken tools trampled as she drove the thing back with her fury alone. Her bloodied face was feral, her eyes a brilliant gold that was all but natural. Deliver us from heresy and save us from the beasts of the void! Behold how they lie in wait for us, fierce monsters who conspire against you and your flock, for no offense or sin above being human!
Die, Xeno! Die!
Oh God, Emperor! Witness me and call down your wrath through my arms! She cried out, the momentum of her swings growing greater and greater, her strikes and counterstrikes gaining in speed as well as force. But the beast she contended with was no slouch. And as the surprise of her intervention wore away, its waning strength waxed stronger still, returning her fury and faith with inhuman frenzy and rapacious battle lust.
Come on, Reyna.
Blow for blow, strike by strike, they pushed each other up and down the ruined half of the medical tents, teeth born in a mutual thirst for the death of the other. And then, as suddenly as it had began, the battle ended. A blade locked on a saber, twisting to catch its twin, and barely missing by a hair's breadth. Reyna gasped, fresh blood spraying from her lips.
No!
The blue blade of light which had slipped past her guard now burning through her, piercing into her abdomen and out her back, bright as the face of an azure sun. Miria felt her blood freeze, having lifted herself to her feet, leaning against the supporting tent pole, watching as Reyna Ordain, bloody daughter and heir to their order, began to lose her strength as well as her life. The creature smiled wide and cruel, leering closer to her aghast expression.
Woe to the defeated.
Oh, shut up.
It proclaimed, causing her to grit her red teeth one more time. She released her sword, raising her fist and bringing it down like a thunderhammer, smashing the hilt of the blade which pierced her, and deactivating the saber as its pieces scattered across the ground.
Okay, so now he only has one lightsaber left. Okay, I think it's still possible for Miria to do something now. However, Reyna is out of this battle. Yeah.
The Primus growled at her defiance and kicked her with its inhuman strength, sending her sailing back and crashing into a row of intact medical beds. Reyna groaned and struggled to rise, but the damage had been done, and she could do no more than quake and cough blood. The creature tossing aside what was left of its ruined saber and raising its functional one high.
Die!
It said as it came upon her,
Sister Miria, do something!
its shadow encompassing her as it blocked the light of the entrance.
Die like your dead god!
It growled, ruthlessly baring its powerful teeth in a grin which signaled the end. "The Emperor is not dead," said another voice, a new voice, an old voice.
No way. No way.
Miria turned just as the Xenos did, both of their eyes finding the frail, withered shape of Ishtara Ordain.
And she has a flamethrower with her, right? Yeah. Oh! Burn him, sister. Burn. No, it's not even a him. Burn it.
Bandages trailing off her like white tassels. The cast around her right hand shattered, her hand flamer held tightly in a steady, deadlocked grip. "He is right here," she said, pulling the trigger, and
hot cooking, hot in my kitchen, ooh, ooh.
Issuing forth a torrent of brilliant, swirling flames. The beastly butcher howled as its body was captured in fire.
Don't stop, sister, don't stop.
Saving itself by crouching to the ground, forcing Ishtara to cease the torrent, lest it pass her target and roast her own dying daughter. As Ishtara ceased her fire and aimed her weapon up, the beast scrambled across the ground like a titanic roach.
Coward.
Moving far faster than it had on two legs, screeching pain as it ran across the floor. Ishtara tried to blast it twice more, but its speed outdid her, and it escaped, still aflame, out to the front of the entrance flaps of the triage tents. Ishtara stared after it, not breaking her glare even when Miria came before her and kneeled. "My holy lady," Miria gasped in total disbelief. "Rise, Miria, tend to my daughter," said Ishtara, her eyes shimmering like golden discs. But my lady, you," the senior hospitaller began to say. "I am dying," said the ancient warrior mistress of their order. "But my duty is not yet done. The Emperor demands one last service from me."
One last time. One last time. Onto the breach, my sister.
"Before I go to his side," she said as she began to stride forward on stick-thin limbs. And just like that, she disappeared through the entrance, out into the courtyard, and Miria could not but whisper her awe before running to reach Reyna herself, all the while muttering holy words. "And they called upon the name of their daemon, and she called upon the name of the Emperor, and the god who answered spoke by fire, and all knew that he was the master of all."
Jevona. Yes. What do you want?
Jevona was shocked, truly. She had known Combier's armor was strong. It had to be from all she had seen, but as she treated and dressed the wounds on his back, bolter wounds, she came to fully realize just how much of that lethal damage had been absorbed before penetrating into his skin. She used her power, reaching in and finding another metal fragment, pulling it out and making Combier wince. The other thing that shocked her was just how quickly that Bacta solution was working. In fact, it was working too fast, making more painful the work she had to perform as skin and sinew tried to rapidly regrow over places where shrapnel from the shots and his shattered armor were buried. Despite that, she was thankful for it as well, thankful that he would be able to heal so quickly, having half the rebreather still left, clutched in his hand, waiting for her to get done before using any of the rest. "Ouch! Frag! Jevona, are you sure you can't do that a little more gently?" Combier whined, sweating in pain as she reached in with a keen knife she had taken off an Imperial soldier's body, helping to cut a way out for another sharp fragment. She gently batted his head with her free hand as the piece of metal came out, floating in the air before she let it drop into a bloody stack of similar shards. "This is only happening because you wouldn't stay back. You wanted battle? Well, this is part of it. Hold still, or it will hurt even worse. She lightly scolded him, shaking her head. Can't you just let the Bacta push it out? The Axumite whined, cringing again as she found another piece and began moving it out. Samael laughed, shaking his head and sauntering over.
Oh, Samael is here. Okay. When are you going to kill her? Samael, when are you going to kill Jevona? When are you going to kill Balthazar? Especially Balthazar is causing so much havoc in the Basilica. When are you going to take care of this thing? You know, when?
Jevona narrowed her eyes at the odd, large man. He wore a black long coat over what looked like green worker's clothes that barely fit him, almost splitting at the seams over every one of his many muscles. He wore a bright ruby ring on his right hand, the thing in the shape of a red skull framed in bright golden wings.
He must have been part of nobility. You know, if he has some sort of like a red jewel ring, yeah, it must have been a rich noble that has become a spy. Or maybe he's part of the official assassinorum, I don't know. Samuel, who are you?
Ring she was sure he had not been wearing when he first arrived. His smell, his stance, the way his mind echoed so oddly, it all made what little hair she had stand on end. What?
So you can't read his mind? Huh. Samuel must have been trained, maybe from, maybe he comes from the Scholar Progenium as well. And, you know, he had been trained there and then he'd become an Inquisitor. Or a official assassinorum member.
Was it about that man that set her off so much? His sweat tainted the air with a chemical scent she had a familiarity with, though only vaguely, and the way he moved, it was just uncanny, wrong. And yet, she had seen loads of new creatures here in this place, and he had already helped them, brought even more reinforcements, even before the Republic had decided to join the fight. And all of that aside, it was he who had supplied the healing agent to Combeer. So, why was she so on edge near him? I don't think it works like that, kid. Sure, this juice might push out a few splinters, but what you got in your back is a bit more than that, he said as he squatted down next to them, pulling out a half-empty carton of cigarettes and using both hands to shake the remaining sticks out. He gathered them up in an enormous hand and stowed them away in an inner pocket on his coat. He then folded and rolled the empty carton before handing it to Combeer. Here, bite down on this. Should make it easier for you and keep you from nipping off the end of your own tongue, the big man said, and despite her misgivings, Jevona was grateful for that too. Not only because it would make
Man, Samuel is good. He's good. He's really good.
Things easier for her rescuer, but because it would make things easier for her as well, not having to hear his pained whinging. Thanks, Sam, said Combeer, quickly taking the rolled carton and placing it between his teeth, biting down.
Wow, he affectionately calls him Sam. Too bad Sam is not really going to tell you who he really is, Combeer. It's unfortunate. You would have been a good ally for the Imperium of Man. Maybe. I don't know. No. These are the people who killed your parents. So I don't think so. It's a weird relationship. It's a weird situation here. Because I can see Samuel likes Combeer. Combeer likes Samuel, you know. And they seem like good friends. It's just that Samuel is not who he says he is. He is not who Combeer thinks he is. I'm just waiting for that moment when this deck of cards just come crashing down and Combeer realizes the truth that his friend, you know, is actually part of the enemy. Man, it's gonna be sad. It's gonna be awkward, really. Because Samuel has been there every step of the way with Samuel, you know, helping him out, giving him advice. And now I'm just waiting, because Samuel has brought everybody here to the Basilica. What's his final move after bringing everybody here? What is he going to do? You know?
Once he did, Jevona continued her delicate work, almost losing focus as the entire passageway around them began to shake and tremble. Loud blasts that made her ears ring, reverberating through the entire structure. Samael took either side of his wide black trench coat, covering them with his bulk as dust and detritus fell from the ceiling, keeping it out of Combier's wounds. "What is that?" Jevona cried out.
"If I had to guess, I'd say it's the Republic,"
the big man answered.
"Looks like they finally decided to pull out the big guns,"
he added. Jevona pulled the fragments out of Combier with more haste than she had intended, making him groan into the carton and sag when it exited his flesh, almost tearing its way out of him. Wincing herself, Jevona paused to look around. "They are going to bring the wall down on top of us!" She almost screamed as panic flooded her, but Samael shook his head.
"Nah, they won't target their weapons directly over us. I've already seen 3 Jedi and a mess of clones run through here. They know we're using this passageway. They're probably blowing the gate down and scouring the tops of the walls. Just hold tight, it will pass,"
the man said, the surety in his voice giving Jevona the confidence she needed to continue her work. Samael turned out to be correct, the shaking and quaking passing after nearly 40 seconds, the high-pitched thrums and blasts of ship-scale turbo lasers moving off and away into the distance. But not too far a distance. With the disturbance now gone past, Jevona found herself able to redouble her efforts, and as the large rebel stood up from them, she finished her work, extracting the last bit of metal from the axamite. "There, done," she said.
Wow, congratulations.
Grabbing pads and gauze and beginning to seal and patch the wounds. Combier spat out the carton, sighing heavily and breathing hard. "Thank the fragging force," he said, wiping sweat from his brow and pushing the rebreather back onto his mouth, taking several deep gasps.
"Don't thank it just yet,"
said a familiar voice.
It's Balthazar, after he had his tussle with the sisters.
The voice of her brother, Bathrazan.
Bathrazan, sorry, not Balthazar. Whatever I said. Okay, Bathrazan.
Snapping her head up right away, Jevona gasped in shock as she saw her beloved sibling stagger through the entryway. Body sagging, back and shoulders smoking and blackened. She began to rise right away, but a thick hand on her shoulder held her in place, prompting her to glare up at Samael.
"You can't do nothing for burns, but I can,"
said the man, holding up a second Bacta rebreather.
"Finish what you're doing with Combier here. I'll take care of your... what is he? Your brother?"
he said, Jevona nodding to his question and continuing to wrap Combier's wounds.
Samuel, I'm being patient, okay? I'm patient right now. I'm patient, okay? When are you gonna kill these things? When?
Samael stood up straight, walking on the balls of his feet as he approached the alien man, holding out the Bacta device as he did. Bathrazan staggered forward, grimacing in pain, one lightsaber clutched in one of his 2 more human-like hands, the other clearly having several broken fingers, though the entirely alien claw opposite those arms was still fully intact. Bathrazan used his free, clawed hand to delicately grasp the device once Samael and he neared each other. But Samael did not release the rebreather, the Primus tugging on and almost tearing it, looking up with a confused, quizzical expression. Again, Jevona felt it. Something was wrong about this man. But she did not feel it strongly enough, not until she heard what Samael whispered to her brother. A whisper which still made it to her ears and froze her alien blood.
Not even here, on this frozen silver rock, will you escape his eyes.
The large man growled.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
His face creasing with lines which transformed his expression from a passive one to a passionately vicious facade.
Nor his judgment.
Bathrazan's eyes widened, his claws opening, single remaining lightsaber activating. Jevona opened her mouth, beginning to scream a warning, power flowing through her eyes, attempting to throw her brother back. But none of it was even remotely fast enough to stop Samael. The ruby ring on his right hand, the same hand he had been using to hold out the rebreather, shone like the sun, flaring bright red as it instantaneously expelled a stream of energy. The lethal torrent of a las cannon bursting forth from the unassuming digital weapon. The ring blew apart in the process, but Bathrazan was atomized in the same instant.
Now, take care of Jevona. She's gotta go. She has got to go. She's next, right?
His limbs and head falling away as his entire torso was torn apart at the molecular level. And the man called Samael was not even done yet.
Of course he isn't.
Jevona was halfway through her scream when she noticed what he had been doing with his other hand. Smoothly reaching into the confines of his black coat and withdrawing a long snouted stubber. The hand cannon aimed directly at her face, even as the assassin who had taken the life of her brother continued to look forward.
Fire! 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 Fire!
There was a flash, and he fired, Jevona launching her mind to stop the bullet, to slow it down and catch it before it could reach her.
Then it must explode. It must explode in her face.
But they were too close to each other. The attack too sudden, the loss too great for the needed focus. Binding waves of psychic power snapped and tore, the bullet rending through them on its way to her head. But something did save her, or rather, someone, acting even before the bullet had been shot, moving on some precognitive intuition.
Come here. Come here, you little
Combeer proved himself to her again, but this time in the ultimate way. The young warrior wrapped his arms around Jevona and tried to pull her back, attempting to roll out of the way with her, and taking the shot meant for her in the process. The bullet ripped open half his skull, and Jevona watched as the light flickered in his eyes, still wide.
Come here, go join your parents. Go and join your parents in the afterlife. Thank you for your service. Now, bye-bye.
Still shocked, having moved before he had even understood what exactly was happening. No! Jevona wailed as they fell over each other.
Shoot again, Samuel. While she's still in this state of panic and shock, shoot her again.
Recovering quickly, surrounding his head and face in her power, attempting to hold his scorched and damaged brains in his skull, to prevent the bleeding that was already gushing from the new, mortal injury. Combeer, don't die! I can fix this!
No, you cannot. And you must join him too.
I can, she said, trailing off, her power pulsing, skull fragments flying from the ground and back onto his face. But no mending followed. and Combier's consciousness had already been snuffed like a candle in the wind. In desperation,
it's better this way. It's better this way. If he cannot join the Imperium of Man, if he cannot realize the type of threat he's dealing with here, this woman that he claims to have infatuations for, if he cannot see what she truly is, if he's governed by love or some sort of friendship he has for this thing, then the Emperor's mercy is the only answer. Samuel, shoot again. She's still there. Shoot her now.
she held him together, praying to her gods for the power to fix him. But there was no such power. Not from the gods she served. And her prayers were answered by something else.
Throne, damn it, kid.
Samael spat from behind her. She turned, eyes still glowing, the man standing 10 feet from her kneeling form, his gun reoriented at her head.
Damn shame you had to waste yourself on a lost cause.
Shoot the gun,
he said, shaking his head before firing again. Jevona winced, unable to stop the bullet without surrendering her hopeless bid to save Combier, to preserve some part of her family. She closed her eyes, tears welling, but knew it would be over before they could slide from her violet eyes. But again, the bullet was intercepted, something she discovered when she opened her eyes once more, a dark-skinned fist placed before her, lifting away slowly and making her aware of 2 newcomers. 2 Jedi Masters. Mace Windu raised his free hand, purple lightsaber clutched in his right, releasing the smoking bullet from his force-wreathed palm and letting it drop to the ground. Beside him, Obi-Wan Kenobi swung his blade up over his head, extending his free hand towards the secret Imperial, 2 fingers pointing forward as he crouched.
Samael,
said the first Jedi Master, Mace's dark features twisting into a fixed glare. Samael's face soured, and he raised his gun, clutched in his left hand.
General Windu,
he said in return, taking a step to angle his body as he faced the 2 interlopers.
We were interrupted the last time we spoke. Let's finish that conversation now,
said the purple blade-wielding master. Samael gave a shallow nod, extending his free hand out, no longer holding the rebreather, and prompting a new weapon to fly out from his cloak and land firmly in his grip. It was like a lightsaber hilt, but covered in skull ornamentation and imperial sigils. A bright, white blade bursting from its base and extending out, creating a crackling, unstable blade of pale energy.
Let's,
growled the traitorous rebel. Go, said the other Jedi Master, looking to his side and at Jevona. She looked up at him with wide eyes. But Combier, she stuttered frantically. Neither of you stand a chance if you stay. Take him if you can, and run, and don't stop until you are safely out of here, said the blonde-haired Jedi Master, sliding from his current stance and into a new one, centering his blade and bringing both hands together upon it. We will guard your back. Now run! He almost yelled, and the act drove Jevona into movement, grunting as she lifted Combier's heavy body, using no small aid from her telekinetic powers, and began to dash away. From behind her she could hear the crash and crackle of lightsabers meeting in combat, as well as the familiar gunfire from the weapon which had nearly stolen her life. She felt those tears which had been welling sting her eyes, and pushed forward ever more powerfully. Get him! She said angrily to herself, shaking with rage and effort. Jedi, I hope the Force really is with you. For Bathrazan, for Combier, beat him! Beat them all! She yelled over her shoulder as she escaped the battle, the only one of her kind who would.
She could have died right there. We were so close. So close. It was there. It was there. And then Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh. Okay. Guys, yeah. That's it with Star Wars vs. Warhammer 40K. Episode 41, part 2 of Mortal Precipices. Yes, made on the A Fan with Too Much Time YouTube channel. Oh, if only the Jedi could understand. If only the Jedi knew the type of monster they've let go. If only they knew. If only they knew. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Yes, sister. Sorry guys, I need to get back into the zone of thinking. Sister Maria has been, consoling her other sisters who were trying to save the Canoness Superior Istar Ordain, because she is dying, and duly because of her injuries in battle during her fight with those Jedi, during her escape from the crash landing of the Separatist vessel and being ambushed by the Gene Stealer cult, and also she was also fighting against rebels, if I'm not mistaken. So she's been fighting a lot, and all of that battle has taken a toll on her body to the point where she's at the verge of death now, and Sister Maria has accepted that. Sister Maria has accepted that, the Canoness Superior is not going to make it. They said their final prayers, and they decided to go back to work and trying to save other people's lives until the Galactic Republic came with 3 vessels. They destroyed the bannerments of the Basilica, and Brothazan had entered into the medical tents, and he had begun killing and destroying whatever infrastructure that was there. Sister Maria almost died also until Sister Reyna Ordain came in there and used her power sword and fought against Brothazan. She did good. She did good for as long as she could, until she was stabbed in her chest, or was it her stomach, with a lightsaber. But before she fell to the ground, she destroyed one of Brothazan's lightsabers, which was a very good thing to do right there. And luckily Istar is not dead yet. The Emperor still has a job for her to do, and she awoke and she used a flamethrower to fire against Brothazan. I thought Brothazan was going to die right there. I really thought he was going to cook and burn right there, but he skittered away just in the nick of time before the fires truly consumed him. And Sister, or should I say, Canoness Superior Istar, is walking out into the battlefield without any armor. She's just having bandages on her body and a flamethrower. I don't know what is she going to do. I don't know how is she going to do it, but she's going out there to fight one more time. Good luck to her. And hopefully Reyna is also going to be okay. Hopefully they'll be able to, give her any sort of cybernetics in her body, grafted into her body, because she now has that hole because of the lightsaber. So hopefully they'll be able to save her life. And then we were dealing with Jevona, Conveyor, and Samuel. And, you know, I have been waiting for this day to happen for a very long time. I have been waiting. I have been screaming. I have been complaining, asking, when is this woman going to bite the bullet? When is she going to die? You know, when is the Genestealer cult members going to be eradicated? But Samuel, he tried. You know, he did try. He destroyed Balthazar at least. All that is left now is Jevona. Combia, I already accepted that you were going to die one way or another. I've said this before in previous episodes, that Combia is going to die. I'm just not sure how, I'm just not sure when. Either he will be captured by the Imperium of Man and turned into a servitor, or he was going to die on the battlefield. And here he has died on the battlefield. You know, not directly at the hands of Samuel, but, you know, he went into the direction of the bullet that was meant for Jevona. So I'm not really sad that he's gone. You know, he was a man in love, and he was a man who was ignorant of the reality that he is dealing with here. He saw Jevona as a friend. He saw Jevona as a potential girlfriend. Jevona already saw him as a boyfriend, but, you know, he cared for her. And, you know, Jevona helped Combia's mother and him, you know, during that time when they were fighting against the Imperium of Man. So, yes, she was like a valued friend to him. It's just that he did not know what she truly was and what type of threat she can, you know, bring upon Axum and maybe the entire galaxy. Given time, given the space, they can really become a serious threat to the stability of the galaxy. More so than the Imperium of Man. So yeah, it's unfortunate that he's gone, but I've accepted it a long time ago. A long time ago, I already knew this guy was going to die. So yeah, let him be happy with his mother and his father in the afterlife. And Jevona, your day is coming. I don't know when, I don't know how, but you gotta go. I've always stated this. You gotta go. You, Tawila, you guys have got to go. Okay? Oh yes, Commissar Shadrach, you too, you have to go. You guys are a blight. You guys are a blight. A nuisance that needs to be eradicated as soon as possible. So yeah, I'm hoping that Samuel can slip past Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mace Windu and finish the job by destroying Jevona. If he cannot do that, then hopefully Samuel will survive this battle and also be rescued by Admiral Roller and you know, the relief forces or the evacuation shuttles that might come and assist them as soon as possible. Yeah. So Samuel, survive. Don't die at the hands of these Jedi who are also ignorant, who also don't really know what's really going on here with this Genestealer member. Survive this and fight another day. Yeah. Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, why? 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 Why did you guys come now? Ish. Alright. Thanks again to A Fan With Too Much Time for making me stressed. You're making me stressed. I'm so stressed. This episode stressed me out. I won't lie. These last few 10 minutes, it stressed me out. It stressed me out. But yeah, thanks a lot for such an entertaining story in terms of Star Wars versus Warhammer 40K, and I can't wait for the next episode 40. I think it is going to be 42, or maybe it's going to be part 2 of 41. Part 3 of 41. I'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully you guys will also be there for my reaction. Remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as a fan with Too Much Time's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And hopefully I'll see you guys next week. Okay? Good night. Good night. Good morning. Good morning. You see what you've done to me. You see what you've done to me, a fan of Too Much Time. I'm now thinking that it's night because of the stress that you've given me in this episode. Oh my gosh. Oh, Jevona. I don't know how you do it, lady. Honestly, I don't know who's on your side, what type of luck you have. But I want that luck too. I want it too. Oh, it's amazing.